So, in your company's mission statement, you mentioned that soap is a metaphor for people getting clean from addiction. What did your life feel like before starting this business versus after?
Well, I was doing the soap making more as a hobby while my children, while I was dealing with very stressful things with my children. And it was more of just for a distraction for me. It was something that kind of felt good to do something positive that I had fun doing, and it took my mind off of all the problems that I was dealing with. But once I actually decided to turn it into a business and get serious about it, then I realized that I was making soap for a different reason. And then it's like it put a flame under me, and I became much more passionate about it. And I started coming up with all these ideas of how I could try to connect with families that are in the midst of a loved one in addiction. And my life beforehand, it was just kind of going through the motions. Whereas once I had the mission of making the soaps for a reason, then it was just like my the desire to do it was just so much more.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Um, I really love how it's like your passion and everything just kind of lined up for that. And then
Hmm.
this hobby, and it's like once you had something motivating it, it's like boom, you had a path ahead, you had a direction, and you could go for it.
Right. And I've done many hobbies before, everything from crocheting to stamping to, I mean, just so many different things. And I've never stuck with them. It was just a thing to do, pass the time. And then, but this, I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years. So
Wow, yeah.
it's been good.
Since we were talking about your children, how are they doing now with their addiction?
They are all completely in recovery.
Okay.
So my life went from dealing with constant phone calls of whether it be the police to say they've been arrested, or public intoxication, or the hospital to say that they had overdosed and been resuscitated, or that they had been picked up for this, that, or whatever. It was that constant worry and fear and dread in my life that totally consumed me, made me not want to go out and do things with other people and talk about my family and stuff like that. But now that they're in recovery, and really before they were in recovery, once I learned how to take the focus off of my children and not try to fix them, because you cannot fix them,
Mm.
to deal with my own grief and guilt and all the different feelings that come from it, I was able to go beyond that and use my story in my business. But they are all totally recovered now. One of my children, they are involved in construction. They got their apprenticeship. My other son works for an airline. And then my daughter, she's working for a financial company. They're all doing really well. And it, it's, it, life is just so much different now, not having to constantly worry about what's going on in their life.
Absolutely. That is so incredible that all of them were able to get better. Um,
Yeah.
and this is just kind of a sideline question, but what made the biggest difference for them? Or like, how did they individually make that shift into getting better?
Well, my two sons, they were out living on their own together, so they were partners in crime. But I think once both me and my husband got to that point where we would not help them anymore, and we convinced the rest of the family that that was not in their best interest to help them anymore,
Yeah.
and they had to then figure it out on their own, whether they were going to buy drugs or pay for rent, if they were going to pay for gas in the car, or they were going to have to walk or take the bus. When they got to where they had zero money, were getting evicted, the car was broke down, they
Yeah.
had nowhere else to go when they knew that none of us was going to take them in. then they called me up and said, we're ready to get help. And it had to be them to initiate it. You cannot threaten, bribe, or coerce
Yeah.
anybody in an addiction to go in to be, so have sobriety. And then my one daughter, she got locked up for doing drugs in a McDonald's. And
Oh,
she was court mandated to go into a program, and that's what, finally got it for her. But she did relapse a couple times after that, but she quickly got back on, that wagon and said, I don't want to go back to that.
that's incredible. That must have been so hard to not help them and to kind of let your children, who you love more than anybody else in the world, hit rock
Hmm.
bottoms and knowing that it was, I mean, obviously it was the best thing for them. Like,
Yeah.
that must have
And
been
they
really
come back,
hard.
they say now that if we had not have done what we did by letting them, whether it's stay out on the street or in jail or whatever, then they would have continued to milk that money train as long as they could have,
Yeah.
whether it was a place to live or supposed money for gas or food, which they turned around and used for drugs. Um, but we have holidays coming up, and so many holidays were ruined. You,
Yeah.
you couldn't sit down for a meal without someone falling asleep at the table. Just so many negative memories that you just want to disappear. But
Yeah.
now that things are good, you celebrate each and every day for the victory that it brings.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And it's all a part of your story and it all led you to here, even the dark
Mm-hmm.
parts too. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I mean, going into the next question, I mean, what have been some of your own personal benefits from following your passion and starting soap addiction?
I think one of the best things that has happened is all of the relationships that
Mhm.
I've made with people along the way as I've opened up about, my part in their addiction. Because even though the motto is you didn't cause it, you can't fix it type thing, everybody has their part of what they play in their loved one's addiction, whether it's enabling or codependency and things like that. And once I learned about those aspects of what I brought to the table,
Mhm.
um, it helped me to be able to talk to other families who were going through the same thing and they didn't know where to begin. And I've had a lot of random emails from people that are going through that, and they asked if they could call and talk to me. And so I've been able to be a little bit of a counselor and a little bit of a mentor to several
Yeah.
families along the way that they just need to know that there's somebody out there that understands what they're going through. Because it's one of those things that you just don't know what it feels like to watch your loved one die in front of you, but not die.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
absolutely.
so that personal strength to be able to share, that's been some personal victories for me is learning how to be real, learning how to share and not have that fear of rejection or judgment or guilt or shame or whatever feelings people want to put to it. That I can be real about it and honest and have an open conversation with people, because it's very hurtful to talk to people who don't know my story, and they will talk about, yeah, those druggies out on the street, we need to just let them die,
Yeah.
and they don't know. But I'm like, well, let me tell you some stories about what druggies can do and how they can recover and be beneficial, productive people of society. You
I
can't give
think
up on them.
absolutely. And I think one of the strongest and bravest things that you can do as a person is to take those low moments and to help other people through them too, that are going through something
Hmm.
similar, and to really
Hmm.
make something substantial and something grounding out of all of the things that really ungrounded you, and helping people to kind of center in and feel seen and validated and like
Hmm.
things are going to be okay. So that's really,
And I
really,
think one of the biggest things that people always say, how do I get my fill in the blank to go to recovery, to go into a program? I'm like, you don't.
Yeah.
You can't do that for them. They have to decide. They have to hit the level that they decide to do that. What you can do, though, is you can work on you. You
Yeah.
can learn to find joy every day in the things that bring you joy and take the focus off fixing them and start helping yourself to grow and to um, find hope and never give up hope on that your child or your husband or whoever it is going to find their moment when they decide that they need recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You have such great, great advice. But I mean, you can tell people get
Been
that
through a
way.
lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's how people get that way, is they've been
Yeah,
through a lot and then
yeah.
they've sat in those lows and learned from them so they can teach others how to do the same. So,
Yeah.
well, I'm very, very grateful and honored to have you here in this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who has a loved one who's struggling with addiction? I mean, we kind of just touched on this, but is there anything else you want to say?
Um, Connect with a group, connect with people that know what you're going through. There's a lot of fantastic groups out there called Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian-based 12-step program. And it gives you each step, it gives you the biblical reasons of why, you do what you do. But, that was eye-opening for me. Um, because it also helped me to educate myself on my roles of what I was doing. So educating yourself and connect with a group, whether it's Al-Anon, it's AA, Celebrate Recovery. There's so many programs. Even if you can just find one other person that you can talk to and be honest with, then that right there, not feeling alone, which that was such an overbearing feeling for me for years because I kept it, both me and my husband, we kept it hidden from everybody except for the immediate family. No, nobody knew in church. None of our friends knew what we were going through. And it was just like, take off the one mask and put on the other mask
Yeah.
to go out into society and function. And one day you just go, I'm not being me. I'm not being real. I'm not being honest. And so yeah, get connected with some people. And if people need to connect with me, please call me, email, text me. I don't care. I will be glad to talk to you.
That's so great. So how did you get started making goat milk soap?
We bought a farm of about 14 acres, and it was a lot to manage. We kept asking people if they wanted to come cut the hay for their horses or cows or whatever, and nobody ever took us up on it. So we didn't have the means to be able to roll hay and sell it and all that stuff. So we decided to get some goats
Mhm.
to do more of pasture management, cut it all down, and have the cute little animals. And we were we started out with meat goats, and then we went to dairy goats because we live a very natural, self-sufficient life. Chickens, we raise our own food, berries, just the whole
Mhm.
gamut. And we were having so much milk that we couldn't drink enough milk, and I couldn't make enough goat cheese. And I was making mozzarella and feta, and it was like, I've got cheese everywhere, I've got milk everywhere. And I
Yeah.
said, what am I going to do with all this milk? And someone said, well, why don't you make goat milk soap? Well, we had homeschooled our children for several years, and that was something that I had done with my children back when they were in those elementary years. So I
Mhm.
already had the basics down of how to make the old-fashioned lye soap. And I just got on the internet. I started researching how you do it, and did probably a year worth of experiments of different recipes and came up with my own recipe that came out consistently good. And I thought, I'm just going to make this for us. And because I really loved how it made my skin feel. It was
Yeah.
like, I'm never going back to store-bought soaps again.
Yeah.
And eventually I just found myself, oh, I know we don't need any more soap, but I still want to go make some more. And I was having it sitting around curing everywhere. So then I started doing farmers markets. Just that was the only thing I did was a farmers market for the first couple years. and those bars looked pretty pathetic. They were just plain, no color, not very well scented, but I'd sell $75 worth of stuff in a 4-hour period, and I thought, ha ha, I'm doing good, but things have changed. And
That's
from
so
there, I just started, like I said, the more stressed I was, the more painful events I was going through in my life, then the more I found myself wanting to be more creative with the soaps, learning how to add colors and designs, and that took a lot of time experimenting and stuff. So then all that experimenting really added up to a lot of stuff. And I thought, maybe I need to go into several farmers markets. And then I finally got up the nerve to ask our local grocery store, would they carry my stuff? And I think the big change for me, though, is I thought if I'm going to get really on this bandwagon, I want to take a business course. And I hired a marketing person to kind of tell me the ropes. I mean, she covered everything from email marketing to social media to your whole mindset. And I would say that was the number one thing that changed for me was my mindset, that if this is going to be a business, then I have to treat it like a business and I have to be more professional with it. And that's between my mindset changing and all of a sudden having my aha moment of I am making soap as a desire for my children to get clean. It was just like it all came together, and I'm like, oh, now I've got it figured out. And I felt like God was really talking to me and saying, use your soaps as a vessel. It's a tool to connect with people. And I was very resistant at first because I was like, everybody's going to know. If I tell people, they're all going to know that a big thing for a lot of parents with children and addiction is that you feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And so if I didn't want people to think I was a failure and to see me as that failure. My kids have constantly reminded me that it was not me, it was not my husband, it was their decisions, because none of them really got involved in drugs until they were about 17, 18 years old. Yeah. But the thing is I didn't want to reveal my inner deep secrets to the world and put that out on the plate for everybody to look at. Mm-hmm. But once I realized that by doing that so many people went, yeah, I know what it's like. My parent, my sister, my brother, my aunt, my uncle, whoever. Mm-hmm. I don't know that there's a family out there that hasn't been touched, whether it's alcoholism, drug addiction, or whatever. And I've had people come up to me. This one lady, she came up to my booth and she was looking at the soaps, and I told her what the mission was, and she just started crying. And I said, you have someone involved in addiction, don't you? And she said, my daughter died last year from addiction. And it just broke my heart. And we had a good cry together. Yeah. So, it's those moments that just make the business all worth it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was so beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. So what are some of the benefits of homemade goat soap compared to store-bought soap?
Well, if you look at the ingredients on the back of a bar of soap or even the shower gel, I can pretty much guarantee you might know what one ingredient is in the whole mixture. Yeah. So chemicals, and people don't realize that store-bought soap is actually not soap. If you look at the bar, it says beauty bar or cleansing bar. It typically does not even use the word soap. It uses shower gel. It's just because it's a detergent. All of those are detergents which strip away the outer layer of the skin. It takes the dirt with it, but it also strips away all the oils and moisturizers in your skin as well. And another big thing that people don't realize is that when They create soap that when you make a handmade soap, glycerin is a natural byproduct of soap. It's naturally got that glycerin that helps to moisturize your skin and helps to draw moisture into your skin. Whereas store-bought soap, they remove the glycerin to sell to the lotion companies. So now you have to buy two products to replace one. In addition, when you've got goat milk, you've got lactic acid, which breaks the skin, the bond between a dead skin cell and a live skin cell. So it washes away your dead skin cells. It has cream, it has minerals, selenium and vitamin A, which help fight skin cancers. So it just leaves you feeling very clean and moisturized and not this filmy residue on you.
Cool. I mean, you're selling me on goat milk.
You
Yeah,
should
you're
try
so right.
it.
Thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, they don't say soap. And yeah, like my skin does feel dry afterwards.
Yeah. And then you have to use a lotion that's got all this other stuff in it that
Yeah,
equally dries, so it doesn't really soak in and nourish.
right.
So yeah, I also, ventured out into making lotions and lip balms, and I
Wow.
use a lot of herbal oils and stuff in my product that we grow herbs on the farm, and I turn them into different herbal oils and do that. So I like putting that all natural aspect into my product.
Mhm. Oh, that's so cool. I love that you like farm it all yourself too. That's so
Yes,
cool. Do you have
yes.
anybody who helps you or do you just do it all yourself?
Up until last year, I did it all myself. But I finally got to that point where I said, things are growing too big and I cannot maintain the farm, the business. Plus, I'm also a registered nurse.
Oh,
And
that's
and
wonderful.
so I work 2 days a week at the hospital as well, mostly for the insurance and to just keep my foot in the door. But um, I finally said I can't do it all, so I let my husband retire from his truck driving job where he was gone 50, 60 hours a week.
Mhm.
And now he always does all the farm work, the weed eating, the harvesting the crops, the all of those types of things.
Oh, so
And then
cool.
if I need help, like with labeling or delivering, or um, I'll tell him that the trash needs to go out and the soap dishes have to be done. He's like, okay, boss. He's like, he doesn't have to get out and drive a truck anymore, so he's okay. He's like, this is easy.
I love that. That's so cool. You kind of like created a job for him so that he was able to retire too. That's
Yeah.
so powerful and so expansive for other people too. Um,
Hmm.
it's interesting how so many businesses they kind of end up being like family run, but then that ends up being such a great blessing too.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
so what are some of your favorite scent combinations you've discovered?
I'm very fond of the herbal scents. Like I love rosemary, mint, and tea tree, and
Mm.
spearmint, eucalyptus. I'm a big fan of mint. So anything I've got one that's called minty mint, and it's spearmint and peppermint. Patchouli. Surprisingly, I never really cared for patchouli. I always associated it with a old-fashioned hippie scent, something that the incense used to be back in the 70s. But
Yeah.
as I started learning how to blend those with lavender and orange and peppermint, it was like, I really like that. It's very nice.
Yeah.
And patchouli essential oil is really good for fine lines and wrinkles.
Oh, well,
So,
good to
yeah,
know.
yeah,
Has learning to set boundaries in relationships helped you to set boundaries with your business?
absolutely. I come from a long family of workaholics. You
Mm.
know, that if I slept in, I felt like I was being a bum. If I took the day off to do something else, it's like I'm a slacker. That's kind of what was portrayed to me from, just like I said, family members that growing up always felt like you had to be productive, doing something productive. Otherwise, life's passing you by.
Yeah.
And I really would find myself working from the time I got up until 8 o'clock at night. And then I finally realized that I'm following in my parents' footsteps and I needed to stop. And my husband would say, please just put the stuff down and come sit down and watch TV, come eat dinner, come do whatever, come outside and enjoy the sunset.
Yeah.
And as I've really looked at and reevaluated what truly is important to me, he's right. And I've learned that I typically now stop at between 4 to 5 o'clock in the evening. It's like everybody else has a work day, work hours. It's time to call it quits. That stuff will wait for me until the next day. And to
Mm.
have more grace on myself, not to push, 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 to be a people pleaser of, oh, I have to, that someone comes up with, I have to get this, I need this stuff immediately. Oh, let me put everything down so I can run to your emergency that because you didn't tell me. Now
Yeah.
I'm going to say, sorry, I can't do that in your timeline. Same thing with special request of, do you make pine tar soap? And I'm like, no. Well, can you? No, not at this point in my life because I don't have the time to devote to it. So
Yeah.
I've learned to just say no to people and give them more realistic expectations of time limits to get things done, especially now with COVID. It's taking so long to get some of my materials, and I've totally changed the way I get my materials. Instead of ordering 50 jars, I'm ordering 500 jars.
Yeah.
Instead of ordering just 50 pounds of coconut oil, I'm ordering 300 pounds. So I'm really stocking up so that I have everything I need to be able to meet the customers' um, expectations. But yeah, I try to treat it more like a job of I have a quitting time, and also I try not to work on Sundays. So
Yeah.
that's another thing. It's like I need to have that day of not doing and just enjoying my family, enjoying doing whatever. I don't care if I just stay in my pajamas all day. After I get home from church, put my pajamas back on and just
Yeah.
stay,
Good
go
for
outside and
you.
play with my goats.
Yeah. Good for you. I love that though, because it's like what's the purpose of life if you're just pushing all the time, you know? You want to be able to enjoy, because that's why you're working so hard, so you can enjoy your life too. So
Yes,
that's great.
absolutely. Sometimes you have to remind yourself, though,
Yeah.
that it this stuff will wait and you can do the rest of it tomorrow.
Yeah. What are some other boundaries you have so that you avoid burnout?
I think asking people for help
Mm.
is one thing, is making sure that um, I know that I have a certain way of doing things. For example, gift boxes. And when I'm putting together a gift box, I like for it to look a certain way. I like for the paper to be folded a certain way and the crinkly stuff to go in a certain way. And then my husband, he'll do it and it will look a little more disheveled. But it's like it's a gift, and he does the job. It's just not to how I would do it, and I have to learn how to say it's still okay.
Yeah.
Let somebody else do it.
Yeah.
It's done. So I'm learning more about, letting other people in on my territory
Yeah.
because I'm so protective of it, and I don't
Yeah.
want to let anybody down, and I want to do a good job, and I want it to, just be up to their expectations. So, and my husband, he's like, if you don't want it that way, just tell me. I'll do it a different way. He's very good. He's always um, he's my biggest fan, my biggest supporter.
Oh, that's so cute. I love that.
He's told me that I can accomplish absolutely anything that I
Yeah,
want to. And I
absolutely.
think, yeah, I need that stroke on the back sometimes.
Yeah, we all do. And
Yeah.
I mean, look at all that you've done. Like, you can absolutely do anything that you want. That's so great. So you mentioned earlier that you hired someone to help you with marketing. So what have you found to be the best marketing strategies for your business that maybe now you'd consider non-negotiables for other small businesses?
Um, I think the biggest thing is the whole social media,
Mhm.
is learning that I always felt like I was bugging everybody. That
Yeah.
if I put more than one post out in a day about something, then I was bugging someone. And whenever in reality, how many times have I gotten on social media and that same thing, types of things are out there? And I just, if you don't want to look at it, if it doesn't talk to you, you just scroll on.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm hiring someone to teach me that it's okay to be persistent, and really you should be consistent of getting between 4 to 6 messages out there a day
Yeah.
through the different avenues, and using everything that's free at your disposal.
Mhm.
So get out there, and it doesn't always have to be about your product. For me, because I have goats, I'll take pictures of the goats and I'll put funny little captions about them. Or we just had one that was really sick and she couldn't walk, and we had to have the vet come out. And so sharing those stories, those personal stories on there about the different things that you're going through with your business, or um, asking people, doing giveaways, asking people to share, and those types of things, of just being more forward with your presentation is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Um, and don't feel like you're bugging people, because it doesn't matter that they've seen 5 posts from you that day. Uh, it's social media. You just, like I said, you just move on. So I
Yeah.
did a brave thing the other day, and I opened up a TikTok account.
Woo,
I'm
yay.
like, I don't even know how to do on this TikTok thing. And I'm like, what I'm seeing, I'm like, I'm not, my daughter said, why don't you dance and do soap at the same time? I'm like, no, I am not going to
Be
be the
able to go.
dancing soaper.
I love it.
Yeah, yeah. So something else to learn.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
I would say I would want to learn if I had anything that I could divvy out to somebody, I would divvy out the whole social marketing thing, because it is time consuming.
yeah, it is. Yeah. Um, so why did you decide to start using Tailwind for soap addiction?
Well, Pinterest was brought up as a good avenue to try to sell my products on there.
Mhm.
And I had never really done much with Pinterest. And I found it to be fairly time consuming to try to post to there. And I still haven't really mastered it at all. But I liked that I could post to, using Tailwind, I could post to Pinterest and Facebook, and hopefully, eventually, Instagram, hopefully, other things like that will be integrated onto there, where it's all posted at one time, the same message across all the avenues.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing with Tailwind, is being able to set it up, schedule it a week ahead of time, and be done with it. And don't have. And I love the whole Tailwind create, that
Yeah.
I can pick pictures off of my website or from my computer, and just um, create the different posts and stuff, and it gives me the different color schemes. It gives me the different photograph setups and stuff like that. So I like that it helps me with those things, and I don't have to think a lot about it.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say is your favorite feature on Tailwind?
I would say the Tailwind Create. Yeah, because I can create a lot of, the 5 images at one time.
So what's next for you and soap addiction?
Um, I think that what I would like to do is to get into a few more stores. I right now, I think I have my product in about 7 stores, and then I do a couple of private labels. I would like to maybe grow it a little bit more, to maybe up to 10 stores and stuff,
Nice.
and not do. I'm at the age where I don't want to spend more time working. I
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to I want to be able to do my thing, eventually get out of nursing altogether, and do my thing at home, and then go and enjoy retirement and stuff like that. We do have a plan involved where we purchased a freeze dryer. And as we're milking the goats and we're freezing some of the milk, we're freeze drying the rest of it so that we powder it and then we can have it for down the road, because anything freeze dried will last for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's, you've gotten freeze dried, ice cream or freeze dried, you can freeze dry anything, but it's a plan to, in 4 to 5 years, get rid of all of our animals so that we can enjoy traveling, but yet I don't have to give up the business because I'll have all of that freeze dried milk that I can then still use the milk from my animals on my farm years down the road as I continue to do my business, but not have all the constant work of tending to them, going and buying all the feed, raking up poop,
Yeah.
trimming hooves,
Yeah.
all those types of things. And it gives us the freedom to say, hey, everybody, we're going to be out of town for the next 2 weeks. So if you need any merchandise in your stores, let me know now so I can get it to you. And then we're going to be gone. And it's going to give us the freedom to be able to, just be free.
That's so incredible. That's such a good idea too. That's super innovative. I love that you have such an entrepreneurial brain. Like you're always thinking like 5 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead.
Try to. And that's a big thing with having a true farm where you have the animals. That any farmer you talk to, they say that they can't hardly ever go on vacation because it's hard to find people that know how to come and take care of livestock.
Yeah, that's so true.
And yeah, and then even if you have things like your vegetable garden growing, where you have blackberries and blueberries and raspberries and stuff, you'll come back and your garden's overrun with weeds and all the crops are falling off of the branches and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's just really hard to find somebody to come in and fit those shoes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got a plan for that future of not having to worry so much about that.
Oh yeah. With how hard you're working, you deserve that nice
Yes,
retirement or
I agree.
step towards retirement.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was such a great interview. I'm so excited for the post. Is there anything else that you want to say before we end it?
I think if you have a dream and you have a passion in your life of something that has profoundly affected you, more than likely there's lots of other people out there that it's also affected, whether it's cancer, whether it's, whatever it might be, and to plug that passion into your business, come up with something that there's a need for, and then you're able to put those two things together. And regardless of how far you want to go with it, it's still a win-win because you're always connecting with that person that needs your insights of what has happened, of what's going on to help them in their life. And that's what we're all here for, is to help each other and just, we need more peace and more love in this world for sure. And knowing that somebody else is there that can help you along
Yeah.
is very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. So thank you so much. Those were
You're
the perfect
welcome.
words to end on.
You're welcome. It was great to chat with you.
It was great chatting with you too. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.